My name is Victoria. I'm 30 years old. I live in Chicago, and I own a small landscaping business. The work isn't glamorous. There's no fancy dress or designer suits, but it's something I built from the ground up. After nearly a decade of tireless work, I'm proud of it, even if not everyone in my family feels the same way. It happened this Thanksgiving, a day that should have been all about me, but instead became the moment I realized my true place in the hearts of those I thought were the closest to me. I had just finished a long landscaping job, leaving a client's yard looking immaculate. The sky darkened as I drove home, and I felt at ease. The business was closed for the holiday. All my employees had received their bonuses, and I had picked up a bottle of red wine from a luxury store to bring to the family dinner. Ever since my father passed away, every Thanksgiving my mother has cooked a huge feast, and everyone has shown up. I'd never missed a single year. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. "Ellen." I replied, still smiling. "Hi, Mom, I'm on my way home. Do you want me to bring you carrot cake or a roast this year?" There was an awkwardly long silence on the other end. Then she spoke, her voice a little shaky. "Victoria, there's something I want to tell you. I hope you understand." I frowned. "What is it, Mom?" "I think maybe this year you shouldn't come to Thanksgiving." My foot almost slipped off the gas pedal. "What? Why?" "Emily's boyfriend, Oliver, is bringing his parents. They're in the law, they're kind of traditional, and Emily wants to do everything to make us feel more formal." I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my heart pounding. "You mean I'm not allowed to come?" "I'm not family." "That's not what I mean, Victoria. Of course you are family. It's just that Emily feels like you're giving the wrong impression." "I mean, is it because I'm an expert gardener? Because I didn't go to a famous college?" I cut in, my voice already shaking. "Victoria, don't make this harder." She sighed, her voice softening in that way I'd grown so familiar with, the tone she used when she was about to say something unforgivable, but still expected me to swallow it without complaint. I swallowed back the bitterness rising in my throat. "Do you remember who paid Emily's tuition? Paid for all 4 years she was in school in New York? I never missed a deadline. I gave her a future I never had." Her mother was silent, then said softly, "It's just one night, Victoria. We can see each other again, maybe for brunch." I hung up the phone. I didn't cry, I just sat in my car, my hands still on the steering wheel, feeling empty, like someone had ripped away a part of me I didn't even know I had, that I was holding on to. An hour later, as I sat quietly in my apartment, a text from my cousin Lily popped up. "I thought you should know that Emily told her mother you'd embarrass her. She doesn't want her boyfriend's family to see her in her house with someone who does physical labor." I read that line over and over, clutching my phone so tightly my fingertips left marks on the screen. Emily, the same sister who'd once called me a hero when I'd given her her first laptop at 18, the same girl I'd walked 3 snowy blocks for just to get rent money for her. Now she was ashamed of me. And I knew tonight, when everyone sat around the dinner table toasting, laughing, no one would mention me. No one would save me a seat. No one would notice that I was there, because in their eyes, I never really mattered. I still remember the next morning, the early winter sun streaming through the kitchen window as if nothing had happened. I sat alone with a cold cup of coffee, my phone lying silently on the wooden table. I should have been baking a pie, picking out a dress, getting ready to laugh with my family like every year, but this year, all I felt was emptiness. I scrolled through social media mindlessly, and then like a punch in the gut, I saw the photo. The poster was my sister Emily. She was standing in the center of her mother's living room, wearing a bright red dress, holding hands with Oliver. The dining table behind them was perfectly set. Flowers, lit candles, everything impeccable. The caption read, "A warm Thanksgiving with the ones who matter most." I wasn't in the photo, not a word about myself. Not a question about where I was. When my coffee was finished, my phone vibrated again. Lily, my cousin, was the only one in the family who still called me for reasons other than favors. "Are you okay?" was her first message. I hadn't answered yet when the next one arrived. "I think you need to hear this too, even if it hurts. Emily told everyone that you shouldn't come because she doesn't want her boyfriend's family to know that she comes from a working-class background. She said, if Victoria shows up, they'll think we live in a garage." I froze as I read it over and over, hoping I'd misunderstood or that Lily was joking in some cruel way. But I knew Lily wasn't like that, and deep down, I knew it sounded exactly like something Emily would say. This wasn't the first time she'd been embarrassed by my work. I'd visited her in her dorm room once sophomore year, wearing my work uniform after finishing a nearby job, and she'd quickly pulled me aside, whispering, "Can you change your shirt? Everyone here is in law school. Please, this feels so weird." I let it go, I always do. I used to think she was just acting this way because she was young. I thought she would grow up and realize that a person's worth isn't measured by the clothes they wear or the job they hold. But I was wrong. I was wrong from the start. I had paid for Emily's college, all her tuition from the moment she stepped foot on campus. Each semester cost over $9,000. I worked extra hours and skipped vacations, turned down personal days just to make sure she never had to worry about books or tuition or housing. I never asked for a thank you. I didn't need Christmas cards. I thought if I helped her build a good life from the start, at least I would be welcome at the family table. But in Emily's eyes, I wasn't someone to be introduced to. I wasn't someone important. I closed my phone. My heart pounded with anger. Shame, disgust, disappointment. I stepped outside, watching the cars pass by under a gray sky, and I understood. What hurt wasn't not being invited. It was being erased by someone I loved. All I had in that awkward silence in that moment was the realization that I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't go on living as the one who was always dismissed. I went back inside, sat down at my desk, and opened the folder labeled Emily's Private Tuition. The line read, "Next payment due in 14 days, $9,250. I moved my cursor to remove the payment method. A warning appeared. "Are you sure you want to remove your payment method? This action cannot be undone." I didn't hesitate. I clicked confirm. A soft click echoed as I closed the laptop, but inside me it sounded like the latch of a door finally closing for good. The next morning, when the clock struck 7 a.m., I was already sitting at my desk, grabbing a cup of tea to re-energize myself. Less than 10 minutes later, my phone started vibrating. The first call was from my mother. Before I could answer, another call came in, this time from Emily. It went straight to voicemail. I knew they wouldn't stop. I put my phone on silent and got back to work. At noon, I was working on a new gardening project for a client I had recently met when my phone started to light up nonstop. I quickly checked it. 12 missed calls, 15 unread texts. I ignored most of them, but then a message from Emily stopped me in my tracks. "What did you just do? The school said my tuition wasn't paid. Your account is missing. Call me back now." A text from my mother came shortly after. "Victoria, you can't be so mean to your sister. You know she has no one else but you." I stood frozen in the client's reception room, tools in my hands. Suddenly, a chill ran down my spine, not from the cold, but from the realization that in the mother's eyes, I was just the only option to keep her other favorite daughter from failing. That was it. She didn't recognize me as someone who had worked hard for 10 years, just a walking wallet. That afternoon, as I was driving home, the 15th call from my mother came in. I sighed and answered. Her voice immediately boomed tense. "Victoria, you can't just leave like that. Do you know how panicked Emily is right now?" I kept my hands firmly on the steering wheel, voice calm. "I know, and I think she should be panicking." "Don't you think that's too harsh, Victoria?" The voice continued to crack with anger. "She's a senior. What if she gets expelled?" I let out a short laugh. "Mom, Emily is old enough to understand the consequences of her actions. She's an adult, not a child. But you promised you'd help her until she graduated." I paused for a second. "I promised to help my sister, but the Emily you're defending today isn't someone who sees me as family. I don't have to keep playing the ingratitude card." Mom was silent, and then, as always, she softened her tone, adding layers of guilt. "You're the only one in this family who can help. Are you really going to abandon your family?" I bit my lip, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Family isn't made up of people who only call when they need a withdrawal. Family doesn't exclude you from dinner just because your job isn't polished. Enough. I'm not an endless ATM mom. A long sigh and then her usual closing line, "You've changed." I smiled bitterly. "No, Mom, I finally started to prioritize myself." I ended the call. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the white ceiling, letting the silence wash over me. No more phone rings, no more desperate messages, no more guilt trips. Then a new message. Victoria, I can't believe you did this to me. I've lost everything. I hope you're happy with your decision. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't respond, because if Emily really believed that I had destroyed her life with a single click, then perhaps she had never realized that she had been the one who had started destroying everything in the first place. That was Emily's last message, because for the next 3 days, my phone was completely silent. No calls from her mother, no texts from distant relatives. Everything was quiet. If all this had happened a year ago, I might have cried at the emptiness, but now silence felt like a rare gift. No expectations, no guilt. No one else to play the role of selfless sister. One morning, I was reviewing technical documents in the office when Lily called. Did you hear? Her voice came in an urgent whisper. Did you hear what? I asked, my gut already knowing the answer. Emily showed up at Oliver's house this morning. I frowned. Oliver? Emily's boyfriend. No. He's an ex-boyfriend now. Lily said, her tone low and deliberate. I sat up in shock. What do you mean? Lily took a deep breath. Oliver broke up with her. He moved out this morning. Someone saw Emily crying in the backyard of his old house. I was silent for almost an hour. For the first time in weeks, I was genuinely shocked. Do you know why? Lily continued. Oliver told his mother that Emily had lied about who had paid for her tuition. He thought her parents were covering all the college costs. When he found out it was you, her sister, he was speechless. A shiver ran down my spine. Not out of joy, not out of vindication, but out of the realization that Emily hadn't just erased me from her life. She'd replaced me in a version of her reality where I didn't exist, just to fit into a world she felt deserved better. How long had she been lying to Oliver? I asked. Almost 2 years, Lily said hesitantly. Oliver said he felt like he'd been pulled into a long play where the main character was never real. That afternoon, I received an email from Emily's College Student Affairs office. Please note that the primary payment method has been removed from student Emily Miller's account. Her financial situation is currently unresolved. Please update a valid payment method by January 15th to avoid withdrawal from the university. I didn't forward the email, I didn't call her mother, I didn't inform Emily. I just glanced at the message and closed my screen. But that day, Emily and Oliver meet to try to make amends. They meet at a family-run cafe in the Belmont district. I wasn't there, but Lily knew someone who worked there, and words spread like wildfire. Oliver was already there when she showed up, Lily said. Her voice was a mix of pity and discomfort. She was wearing a silk dress, heavily made up, as if she was trying to save her last image of perfection. So, I asked. Oliver didn't let her say much. He asked her directly, why didn't you tell me the truth about Victoria? I pictured the scene, Emily's face going rigid and her hands wringing under the table. She told him she was embarrassed for me, didn't want him to think she was taking advantage, that her family situation was complicated, and she just wanted to keep a good image in front of Oliver's parents. I wasn't surprised. This was the kind of language Emily always used. Subtle and evasive. Shifting blame while still sounding innocent. But Oliver didn't buy it. Lily continued. He told her, if you're mature enough to build a future for yourself, you should be mature enough to be grateful to whoever gave you that opportunity. I fell silent. My heart ached, though I couldn't tell if it was for Emily's sake or because, for the first time, someone outside the family had said what no one else had ever dared to say. One more thing, Lily finished. Oliver added, I can't love someone who is ashamed of their own family, because if it's your sister today, it could be me tomorrow. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. Emily had lost her tuition, now she had lost her relationship, and the saddest part was that she still didn't understand why everything was falling apart. 3 days after that last call with Lily, I received a second email from the college. This is your final notice. If tuition is not paid by the January 15th deadline, student Emily Miller will be automatically withdrawn from enrollment for the next semester. Please take action immediately to avoid interruption of academic progress. I read that line 3 times, but I didn't feel anything, not anymore. I had given Emily more chances than anyone ever had, and all she had done was make me want to hide behind silk curtains. That night, Emily called 6 times in a row. I didn't answer. The messages she sent me. I know I messed up. I was just scared of being judged. You can't do this to me. I'll lose everything. Don't you love me? I can't throw away every year, please. If I get kicked out, my future is over. I blocked her number after the 20th call. 2 days later, she used a different number to call again. When I blocked that too, the messages moved to email, Instagram, even LinkedIn. The last one said, "If you don't answer, I'll come find you." And sure enough, Emily did the one thing no one thought she would ever dare do. One Monday morning, while I was in a meeting with my team about a new landscaping contract for a coastal hotel chain, the glass door to the office slammed open with such force that the security bell blared. I stopped and looked up. Emily was standing in the doorway, hair a mess, mascara smeared from crying, her heels covered in mud. "I need to talk to my sister," she screamed, freezing everyone in the room. I stood up, my gaze cold as steel. "This is a place of business, Emily. You can't make a scene here. You're ruining my life." Emily screamed, her voice filled with desperation. "You can't just cut me off like nothing happened." Before I could respond, security was already moving toward her. Firm voice. "Ma'am, we need you to leave the building now." "Don't touch me," Emily snapped, her eyes wild. "I'm the sister of the woman who's clearing this place." I stepped forward, calm and firm. "You're the sister of the person who runs this place, not the one you run. You have no right to interrupt my work simply because you refuse to face the consequences of your own actions." "You're abandoning me," she screamed one last time. But no one responded, no sympathetic glances, no nods of agreement, just cold silence and her heavy footsteps as security escorted her out. That afternoon my phone rang again. "Mom." I hesitated, then answered. "Victoria, what happened this morning?" "Emily called me and said she was kicked out of your office. She's humiliated." I said nothing, sipping my water slowly. "Do you know what it will mean if she gets kicked out, Victoria?" Mom continued, her voice breaking. "I know," I replied firmly, "and I think she needs to learn to take responsibility. Families don't turn their backs on each other like that," she snapped. "You're her sister." I put my glass down, lowering my voice firm. I thought she was my sister too, but to her I was always just a tool. When I stopped paying, I stopped being family. "Victoria, I beg you. I've worked hard for 10 years only to be labeled a disgrace." I took a deep breath. "You should call the bank or learn to say no like I did." I hung up. The next day, Aunt Sarah called, then Uncle Louis, then even a high school friend I hadn't spoken to in almost a decade texted me. "Victoria, is it true? Your sister might get expelled. People are saying you've gone too far." I didn't respond. I didn't need to because for the first time in my life, I knew one thing for sure: I was no longer a walking wallet. And I had learned that love cannot exist where there is exploitation. Not anymore. In the weeks after the office incident, I expected to be drawn into an endless battle with my family, and it happened exactly as I predicted. Relentless late-night calls, texts, all encapsulated in those 2 words: blood ties. "You're so cold. She's still your sister, Victoria. People are saying you've changed. You don't care about this family anymore." Words that, in the past, might have brought me to tears, but now I simply ignored. I put the phone down on my desk, stared out the window at the pine trees swaying in the end-of-year wind, and let myself be still. I didn't need to defend myself. I didn't need to apologize anymore. I didn't need to explain myself. One morning in mid-December, when I was reviewing the ventilation plans for a new shopping center project, Lily texted, "I just saw your mom at the grocery store." She said Emily dropped out of college and moved back home. Honestly, they both looked terrible. I stopped typing, my eyes lingering on the message. She also said she still thinks it's your fault. I wasn't surprised. To my mother, responsibility had always been something that could be shifted, and usually I was the one responsible for Emily's failures because she couldn't face reality. Irrelevant. Here, what mattered was that I dared to walk away. But instead of feeling sad, I felt relieved, because while they were still stuck in this cycle of blame and denial, I was starting a new chapter in my life. With the money I used to spend on Emily's tuition, I expanded my company, hired new certified professionals, updated our tools, and even redesigned the office in a modern palette of neutral tones. I also accepted a 3-year landscaping maintenance contract with a hotel chain in the 6-figure range. Now, I work not because I'm afraid of missing work, but because I truly love what I do. No one makes me feel less for not wearing a corporate badge, not anymore. The most important thing today is that no one treats me like I'm invisible. On Christmas Eve, I sat alone on the couch, wearing my red sweater, after a long day of work. Outside the window, neighboring lights flickered on and off, and the sound of church bells echoed faintly in the distance. I poured myself a glass of juice, planning to watch a comforting comedy before bed. Then my phone lit up. It was a text from Mom. "Victoria, Christmas isn't the same without you. I miss you, call me." I don't know how long I stared at that message. Maybe just a few seconds, or maybe it was a lifetime spent in a few moments. I thought about all the Christmases of the past. I was always the one who brought the little tree, who wrapped all the presents, who paid for dinner with money that I could have used to take care of myself. But no matter what I did, I wasn't always presentable enough to be good company. I took a deep breath and gently deleted the message. Not because I didn't miss them, not because I never loved my family, but because for the first time, I had learned to love myself, more than the people who never truly valued me. I didn't expect Emily to change. I didn't expect my mother to apologize. I just hoped that from now on, I could live a life where I didn't need permission just to exist. A few weeks after Christmas, I received a handwritten letter from someone I least expected, my grandmother Elizabeth Miller. She had moved out of our family years after my grandfather passed away. She had moved to a small house in the suburbs of Salem, about a 3-hour drive away. I only visited her a few times a year during the holidays, but she was always the one person in my family who never judged me for my career or lifestyle. All she ever asked was that I show up with a smile and the same sensitive hands that built everything I had. The letter, neatly written, had a slanted handwriting like the soft tone of her voice. "My dear Victoria, I don't know exactly what has been going on in the family lately, but I do know this. When a woman like you finds the courage to set boundaries, many people will feel uncomfortable. Don't let that stop you. Who among them has ever sacrificed for you, even once, the way you have sacrificed for them? I am proud of you. Not because of the money you make or the contracts you sign, but because you have learned to protect your own heart." I read that letter 3 times. Amidst all the blame and accusation, she was the only one who saw me completely, without needing an explanation. And I realized that maybe she was the first person who made me believe that choosing myself was not a betrayal. I used to believe that family was something unbreakable, that if I gave enough, they would love me, accept me, be proud of me. But I was wrong, because no one is obligated to love you if all they have ever learned is how to suck what you have, and you are not obligated to sacrifice yourself just because someone shared a last name with you. I spent so many years living as if my worth was measured by how much I could afford. All the tuition, all the expensive gifts, all the vacations I canceled to work longer and longer hours. I used to think they were acts of love. But the truth is that love doesn't ask you to hide who you are. Love doesn't make you feel ashamed of the work that feeds you. Love doesn't demand that you take a step back just so someone else can shine. If someone expects you to do that, then it's not love. It's control dressed up as family. I no longer feel guilty for staying silent when my mother texts me. I no longer feel torn when relatives call me stubborn or cold, and I don't dream about Emily showing up at my door with tears in her eyes, hugging me and telling me she was wrong. I don't need that anymore. I've learned how to stand my ground in the storm of opinions and say clearly that I wasn't born to be a backdrop in someone else's story. I was born to live my own story. If you're in a situation like Victoria's, where you give help but all you get back is judgment, indifference, and shame, remember, setting boundaries is not a selfish act. It's an act of courage. Choosing your dignity over meeting the needs of others doesn't make you a bad person. It actually means you've evolved. It means you've finally recognized your worth. Let us know in the comments if this story stirred any feelings for you. Like this video to support us and subscribe for more intense stories like this.